Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. Honored to be with you on this beautiful day. And thank you for taking the time to pause. It's not for long, about a half hour we spend together once a week. We've been doing this since just after the pandemic started and everybody was sent home to lock their doors and, be in isolation. And the isolation didn't feel right. I've started feeling contracted, people I know started feeling contracted, and think that longing that we all have for human connection pushed me to start this broadcast to create an opportunity for like-minded people to come together and just get back in touch with that space of grace and power that resides within. And so we've been doing this for 5 years and counting. Starting out every day and then ultimately finding the pace of once a week. And so I thank all of you who have joined over time and are joining now, both live and uh, on demand. We figured out all these things with technology. So it has been about a month since my mother passed. And so I was already thinking about her every day, but now especially. And and she has inspired the focus for today, which is about choosing happiness. And I I start with thinking of her because even in her most tender moments, she rallied to make that choice. She rallied to find joy in whatever was going on, which toward the end of her life was difficult. She was uncomfortable. Her body was giving up, even though her mind wasn't giving up. And so she was in pain, and it was difficult, for real difficult, not something that is exaggerated. It was very, very real. And I watched her choose joy, find joy in the tiny little things. And she had always been like that. About a year ago, she said to us that she's doing the best she has with what she has left. So she wasn't unrealistic. She understood that at 95, and maybe this was at 94, that her life was ending, but she did not consider that that meant she wasn't living in the moment and that there weren't great things that could happen. I've mentioned before that she used to sing on the choir at church from about age 8 to about age 88. Yep, she was a beautiful soprano. And in her end of life, we would often turn on videos of her favorites, which are Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole and Barbara Streisand, and we would have sing-along concerts. And her voice was weak, but she was still singing. And I'm mentioning this because even at end of life, even in the most uncomfortable of moments, it is possible to choose happiness, to choose joy. I witnessed it with my own mother. And I think about how I do this or not, how other people I know do this or not. What do we do in the moments that are uncomfortable, in the moments that may be boring or frustrating or with doubts, with worries? What do we do in those moments? So a lot of people say, when I get to this, I will be happy. As soon as I reach this milestone, then great. I have a sigh of relief and I'm going to be happy. As soon as I get there, or when I get there, that's when I can put my stake in the ground and I'll be happy. Have you ever done that? Have you ever said to yourself and possibly out loud to others, yeah, when I get there, I will have made it. I'm going to be happy. I think probably we all have. And I am not in any way saying that we shouldn't have goals and big goals. I mean, this is Dreamleapers. We talk about manifesting our dreams. First, giving ourselves permission to have big dreams. and then working hard to manifest them. So I am not saying we shouldn't do that. In order to, well, I think in order to have a fulfilled, really full and fulfilled life, we need to have dreams and press forward and do whatever it takes to leap into them. And we need to savor the moment. And we need to choose happiness all along the way. That's why, when I talk about when you go into meditation, you find that big dream. This is what I want. This is what I want for myself, for my life. And you write it down. The next thing that I want you to do is break it down into little steps that are small enough that you can accomplish something toward your goal every day. Because if you just have the big dream, then it can be really frustrating and deflating when, oh, I've been working on this for all these days, all these months, and I haven't gotten there. It often takes a long time to manifest a dream. But if you break it down into 25 steps, and under each of the 25, there are 5 things to do, and you methodically work on each of those things one at a time, then you have little victories all along the way. The little victories for me are fuel. They are the fuel of contentment, fuel of greatness, fuel of energy, fuel of happiness because they help you to know you're doing it. You're working towards your goal. You're accomplishing something. And I believe that when you make a plan that includes small steps leading toward your goal, those little victories help you to have joy, help you to have happiness, even when other things are happening that are difficult. I hope that makes sense. I have found it to be true that you can work toward your goals, accomplish bits of your goals on a day to day basis, and experience joy along the way, even if, even when there are setbacks, even when there are concerns, even when something comes in the way and sidetracks you for a minute. Even in those times, you can access joy and happiness if you make the conscious choice to do so. And then on a deeper level, there's this understanding from a spiritual perspective that you can choose happiness no matter what. How do you look at the world? How do you look at what's happening in your world? Where's the joy? Maybe it isn't where you have been focusing your attention. Maybe you want joy and happiness to come from over here, but what's right in front of your face, there's joy, there's happiness, there's tenderness, and you aren't seeing it because you want it from somewhere else. Maybe you want your source of happiness to be outside of yourself. Do you want to give someone or something or some goal the responsibility of your happiness and it's not working? Well, guess what? That's because it doesn't work. True happiness is emanating from inside out, from that God connection that you have. That is what I have read in every spiritual text that I've read. That is what I've listened to from great beings who've taught how to live your life. You cannot get joy from somebody else. You can experience joy with other people, but they cannot be your source of joy. And that's really hard to accept because we need other people. We do. We need each other. And yet we have to rely on ourselves. And no matter what is happening, choose happiness. So let's look at the quote that I found. It was fun looking for quotes about happiness because a lot of folks have explored this. Here's what I found. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. and that's from Dennis Waitley. So I'm going to read it to you again. I want you to really listen carefully. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. Okay, that first sentence, whew, we live in a consumer driven world, economy, where there's so many messages coming at us all the time about what we should care about, how we should spend our money, how we should spend our time. Dennis Waitley says happiness cannot be traveled to. We think, oh, if we take a vacation, we're going to be happy. Now, I'm not saying don't take a vacation, nor do I think Dennis is, but taking a vacation, going somewhere doesn't mean that you're going to be happy. It cannot be traveled to, owned. Can you own happiness? If you own a house, if you own a car, if you own a boat, if you own clothing, does that make you happy? It not on that deepest of levels. Those things can bring joy, but is it permanent joy? Happiness cannot be earned, Dennis says. Now that's one. What does that mean that it cannot be earned? In terms of monetarily earned, it cannot be earned. Something isn't happiness built on trust? It cannot be worn. Back to your clothing, however you adorn yourself. You can put the most beautiful clothing on, the most beautiful accessories, but that doesn't change your state. Certainly not on any deep level. How many people dress up and walk around with pain inside? We know how to look good even if we don't feel good on the inside. And that is painting a false picture of who we are. Happiness cannot be consumed. Now, I know there are people who beg to differ with that. Like, if you eat something that is so good, you feel like you just ate heaven. Yes, but it's fleeting. Now, attitude-wise, I'm going to say all of these things that Dennis said can't happiness is not. If you have the right attitude, if you have the attitude of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude, then you are grateful to go on that trip. You are grateful to have your possessions. You are grateful to have earned a living to the extent that you can do what you want to do, or you've earned the respect of others so that your relationships with others work well. If you can afford to purchase the clothing and accessories and other things that make you look good, if you are grateful for those things and you're not trying to hide behind those things, you can have happiness, right? But it's an attitude shift. The attitude is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude is the shift. When you live through that lens, then all of those other things, the travel, the possessions, the friends, the food, whatever it is, they support the spiritual experience. So I hope this is making sense to you, even as you just think about how you live. How do you approach the things that fill our lives versus the inner journey? And how often do you cultivate your inner self? How often do you spend time just being still? I have an Islamic friend who talks about, and I mean, many people do, but he talks about you can't take any of this stuff with you. You cannot take a possession with you when you leave the planet. You don't take anything with you. Now, and your spirit leaves the body, right? So, what are you doing to nurture your spirit? If all you really have is that connection to God that makes you alive, your spirit, your soul, your being. What are you doing to nurture that? And part of it, I've learned, is choosing happiness. No matter what is going on, where is the joy in the moment? What can you be grateful for? You know, my mother used to say, count your blessings, especially when you're feeling bitter, hurt, worried, any of those emotions. Count your blessings. What are you grateful for in this moment? It could be taking a breath. It could be seeing your family. It could be being able to go to work. It could be being able to walk outside and feel the sun on your face. Whatever it is, what are those little things that you can be grateful for right now? And are you practicing gratitude? Are you acknowledging that? Or are you fussing? Fussing on the inside, fussing on the outside. Virginia says, nothing will make us happy. We have to choose to be happy for ourselves. You're right, Virginia. And this is something that is a muscle that has to be exercised every day because we have the human nature part where we want and need to be connected to others. I mean, this has been proven. Scientific studies have shown, like with babies, if babies aren't held, like babies in the NICU in the hospital, when babies are not held, they often die because they need to be held. Human beings need love, not just from themselves, but from others. We need this. And so therein lies the conflict. Like, okay, I need that hug. I need to feel love with other people in order to survive and thrive. And at the same time, I need even more to cultivate the love within me, to recognize if I can't love myself, then nobody else could love me enough because I'm always wanting more and more and more and more. This is a very profound spiritual principle that I think is difficult for many, if not all of us, at least sometimes, to exercise because there is this fragile part about humanity as well as this incredible strength that we all can have, and we can have it at once. A few weeks ago, the quote talked about being able to be excellent at things and a work in progress at the same time. Both things can be true. But today, let's just think about what it means to choose happiness. When bad things happen, when uncomfortable things happen, how do you look at that moment? How do you react? What do you do when something bad happens? Do you immediately start blaming somebody else? Well, he did it, she did it, it's their fault. A lot of people do that. And one of my most common sayings is when you find yourself pointing your finger at others, blaming them, wrestle your finger around and point it at yourself and ask yourself, what was my role in this? How did I get here? What did I do to make this happen? Because usually we have a role in whatever is happening to us. How did I get here? What is my responsibility? How can I change this? And when you accept responsibility for the most uncomfortable things in your life, what happens? You engage your power. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It means you are in control. You are in control of yourself. You have the power to control yourself. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we say, well, it's so and so's fault. They did it. This would have never happened if they hadn't done this. But what about you? And what kind of attitude can you have in these extreme circumstances, in these low moments? in moments when you aren't feeling joy. How do you access joy when you're not feeling joy? I go back to my mother. I'm making the most of what I have left. She said that at a point when she couldn't walk. She was in a wheelchair. My mother used to walk around in 3 and 4-inch stilettos up until she was about 88 years old. She was not happy that she couldn't walk. COVID robbed her of the ability to walk. You know, we were all shocked and angry. And by the way, the hospital hadn't done what it should have done. So we could have sued them. But this was at the beginning of COVID. Everybody was afraid of everything. And we chose not to focus our energy on something that probably would not yield good results. Instead, we focused on how to get her healthy as she could be. We chose joy. And she chose joy. She was the example. I'm mentioning this to say, whatever happens to you, whatever your circumstances become, you can still choose happiness. You can still find a way to access joy, even when the circumstances change dramatically. It is so easy to blame other people and situations and what's happening in the world for our state of being, for our circumstances. And what good comes of that? If you give away your power and you fuss and fight all the time, joy is not what you experience. And I am not saying that there aren't times when we should fight. Of course there are. But you have to choose your battles. And even as you choose the battles that mean you have to fight, you still can choose joy. It's all possible. So I'm wondering, where are you all now? Where are you? There are two questions in the where are you? Where is your heart right now? How are you feeling? How are you feeling about your life? How are you feeling about yourself in this moment? Do you think that you can choose joy right now? Do you think that as you go through this day and this week, you can make the commitment to choosing happiness in your life? And so I want to know where your heart is. And I also want to know, where are you? I'm in my happy place. I'm in Sag Harbor. Where are you? So Virginia says, I need this, Harriet. My mom is in the hospital now. Oh, thank you for sharing. Things are not good. So thank you for being so transparent, Virginia. And what I remember when my mother was in this period of transitioning, I called it hers and our tender time, because it was tender. It was, I think we all wanted her. We want to live forever. We wanted our 95-year-old mother to stay with us as long as she could, and she did. She stayed as long as she could. And so what I experienced was accepting transition is really hard. This is still early grief for me. And as you know, I was talking about my mother every day anyway. And now I continue. And I told her, look, you're going to be right here with me because you are right here with me. Things are not good when there's suffering. Things are not good when we're facing the reality that, in my case, we knew the time was coming and we just held on to each other as long as we could. And, now it's acceptance. And that comes whenever it comes. And all I can tell you, Virginia, as you say your mom's in the hospital, and blessings to you and her and your family, just make sure she knows how much you love her. You know, that reminder of the last thing that my mother said to me and I to her, the day she died, she was able to muster up enough energy to say, I love you. She hadn't been talking. Show your love to the people you care about, to your parents, to your family members, to your children, your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, the people who are in your world, show them that you care about them. Be kind to them. Be kind to yourself. It's so easy to be brittle and cold and dismissive and judgmental and to harbor resentments. All those things are easy to do, but it's so much better when we don't do that. It is so much better when we choose happiness, choose joy, choose love, choose forgiveness, choose to just be and be aware of ourselves and those around us and to be kind. Ask yourself, how often are you kind to yourself? And how often are you harsh with yourself? We often are our biggest critics. And I challenge all of us to take a breath and to say, I'm going to love you today. I'm going to love me today. I'm going to be kind to myself today. I'm going to choose happiness for myself today. When, oh, so last week I interviewed uh, my friend Sekou, and I recommend that you at, watch or listen to this interview. You can find it on my website, harrietcole.com/broadcasts. And Sekou was with me forever, but he worked with me when I first started this program, however many years ago, on WBAI. And he wrote a book recently called Hack Your Pain Now. And in this book, now this is someone I know really well. In this book, he describes there was a moment recently when he very seriously contemplated taking his life. And he tells the story vividly in this book of what was happening, what he was going through, where his headspace was, and how literally he was headed toward a bridge. And his life was saved because someone reached out to him to save his life. So I've known Sekou for years and I didn't know this. And not that I had to know, but we're close. And I'm mentioning it to you because people often don't know what's going on inside of us. People often don't know the pain, the challenges that we may be experiencing, including losing faith in your own life. And so in this book, Hack Your Pain Now, Sekou talks about things that you very specifically can do to help save your life if that's what you need. And one of the things that he talks about, this is why I thought of it just now, is one little chapter is called Smile. And he says, before you get out of bed in the morning, smile. And that may seem like nothing to people who are happy, but if you are in that dark space where you don't see anything good, you may not be able to form that smile on your face. And he says, do it anyway. He, in this book, he says, even put a pen in your mouth at sideways. So it pulls your lips out so that it forces you to make a smile. I loved how visceral this was, how like he's writing to people at all stages, but especially to people who are in a desperate space. You can choose life. You can choose to save your life, to save yourself, to save your soul. And we are in times like that. Some of us right now who are connected might feel like that. And so I'm saying to you, if you do feel like that, don't feel like that alone. Reach out to somebody who will listen to you and who can help you because your life is worth it. Find a way to access just a little bit of happiness right now, today. Build on that. build on that muscle of choosing happiness, of counting your blessings. What are you grateful for right now? Consciously say it out loud to yourself. Choose happiness. It is worth it. You are worth it. And no matter what you're going through, find that glimmer of happiness and share it with others. Talk to people who are going to help make your light brighter, not the naysayers. Choose happiness, choose love, choose life. I hope you will practice this today and every day. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.